Hey everybody, it's Brian Shannon from AlphaTrends.net. Today is Friday, the 8th of August, and we had a pretty positive week for equities overall. Very nice recovery. Oil was down a little bit here, but cryptos were strong, and so were most of the equities, except for biotechs, and the bonds lost a little bit of ground. We kind of thought that would happen last week, but let's take a look at these charts. We will start with crypto. Bitcoin did get moving here, and it has created that little inverted head and shoulders pattern. So this is actually XRP rather, and this is what I was telling subscribers about as well. And we got extra long over here, and I'm holding that. So under 3 was the purchase yesterday. Solana also a good purchase yesterday. It's right up against the anchor from the recent high in the volume point of control here. So I'm thinking that maybe it pulls back a little bit. I don't think it's worth worrying about, thinking that it's going to fail. But the ideal scenario is that it gets a little bit more pullback, like down into. Let me get that pencil down towards here, and then gets going. I'd be looking to get back up to a full position in here if that's the case. Ethereum surprised me. I thought that Ethereum would it needed a little bit further rest. It came right down precisely to the anchor off of the beginning of this low, and that's where that move began. I did not purchase this one. I'm still holding some from way back over here at 1600 and change. But Bitcoin also running into its volume point of control here in the anchor off the high. So maybe over the weekend we get a little bit further pullback and then begin a resumption back to new all-time highs in Bitcoin. So crypto's looking strong. Now let's look at the SPY. As we know, last week we closed below the 20-day moving average for the first time in a while, and it was my thought that we were likely to head down towards the 50-day moving average. I didn't want to sell short a rally to the 5-day moving average. In fact, I had gotten long in here, and instead, what we wanted to see if we were going to short was if it was going to break below some support, one of these higher lows. Instead, it continued to rally. There was a beautiful trade in here on Wednesday, and then it pulled back precisely to the 5-day moving average off the high. It bounced yesterday afternoon and followed through today. This morning, we saw that that follow through occurred with a perfect chase the gap or wait for VWAP. And this is why I talk about strategies all the time, because this is what we want to see the market happen. It gaps up, you don't chase that gap, but as it reclaims the volume weighted average price here, this was a chapter in the Anchored VWAP book as well, with a stop under here. This was a midday shakeout and then another touch of the VWAP. So going into next week, the S&P looks like it's probably headed to a new all-time high. I'm not thinking that we're going to get the super strong momentum to the upside though. I'm thinking more we're going to kind of get stuck in a range. And the good news is we had so much news coming out from earnings that are going to show us where the individual stock winners are. Anyways, the Nasdaq, look at that, a new all-time high. Some people who don't know what double tops are will call this a double top. This is just meeting the same place twice after a correction. So this was a big shakeout below that 20-day moving average, and same story here. We got back above the 5-day moving average and rallied in showing a pattern of higher highs and higher lows. Yesterday's low is going to be an important level for an intermediate term trader to put their stops again. Then we saw the same exact setup to the long side here today in the Nasdaq. Chase the gap or wait for it to get back above the VWAP. Purchase here with a stop below the low of the day as a starter position for a day trade that you can transition to a longer period of time. Swing trade, that is. The Russell 2000 continues to be not too much interest to me. It does have a rising 5-day moving average. So for this one, if you're looking to get involved, maybe back above this little peak with a stop under here next week, and perhaps it could continue to move higher. I think it's a low risk opportunity, so maybe one that you might want to participate in. Semiconductors really surprised me because it seemed as though they were going to break back down and maybe get stuck below this VWAP and then head towards that 50 instead. We saw a big gap up yesterday, and today we followed through. So, again, those same strategies over and over. Chase the gap or wait for VWAP. Buy the strength off of the VWAP. These are the strategies that I wrote in Maximum Trading Gains with Anchored VWAP and that I talk about for subscribers every single day of the week. Biotech's just kind of still stuck here in no man's land. I don't see much interesting going on in there. The bonds did what they were supposed to do. They made that brief higher high. So this high was 2 pennies higher than the previous one. Let me just erase all this stuff so that we can actually see it. So this high and then a slightly higher high 2 pennies later. Who buys breakouts after the magnitude of this rally is just, coming into a declining 200-day moving average is a recipe for losing your money, and that's exactly what happened to those people who got excited. Always ask, where has it come from? Where does it have the potential to go? And with a declining 200-day moving average, it shouldn't have been a surprise for this to pull back a little bit. In fact, that's exactly what I told subscribers we'd be looking for. Now, going into next week, maybe we pull back down to the anchor from this low. That's this level right here. And if that's to happen, then what I would look to see is, for another attempt move against the 200-day moving averages. Maybe it comes down like this, takes a day or two, a little shakeout. By that point, the 5-day moving average flattens out. Then we could get involved if you're looking for a move right here with a stop under there, and I think you would see it go on to test that 200-day moving average. But because the 200-day moving average is declining, I really wouldn't put much weight into that move. Merely outlining strategies is all I'm doing here for you, so that you can not only look at TLT, but you can look at it and say, these are strategies I can implement on other time frames for other markets as well. The big surprise this week to me was Apple. It came right down to that anchor from the April 7th low once again, and it got a little bit of news that got it going, and it was just up and away. Just a beautiful move to 15% move here in the last 3 days from 200 to 230. So I would expect that this is going to run out of a little bit of steam and provide a shallow pullback, and maybe that would be a good place to get involved if you've missed it. Amazon also surprised me a little bit because it got back up through that 5-day moving average and held the gains. I'd love to see Amazon pull back next week down towards that 5-day moving average, rebuild, and then be a buy over here. That's what I'll be looking for, is pulling back like that. And then AMD, it recovered very nicely from that gap down. I think it's probably going to need a little bit of time to consolidate before it's up and away again, though. And then NVIDIA still rallies here, recovered very nicely from its a little pullback this week. There's just still a lot of strength out there. There are landmines, of course. One of those this week was SMCI, and buyers were punished in there. It looks like it's heading down towards the April 7th anchor and the blue year-to-date anchored VWAP. That's all I have for now, so have a good weekend, and thanks for tuning in.